There are a couple rules. These also apply to most of Appalachia. One is, if you heard your name in the woods, you didn't, right? The second
you hear
one,
whistling in the woods?
don't whistle in the woods.
Don't whistle in the woods.
Because you might lose your liver.
The night's young, it has just begun. As she puts her hand in mine, we wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Start off our podcast. So for those of you that are not familiar with us, although I know every single one of you is, because we're kind of a big deal. Stop laughing at me. Right. No, just kidding. So we always start off with greetings, travelers.
Greetings, travelers.
So we are the Eerie Travels podcast. We talk about myths, monsters, legends, ghosts. I'm going to introduce myself and then my lovely co-host, it's not often you get to say that, will introduce himself. We do traveling to all of the weird, creepy, cryptid-infested areas of this lovely country of ours, and then tell you how to go there and what you get to see. So that is what we do. But my name is Erica Lance. I am a horror author. I'm also the host of Drinking with Authors, because I like an excuse to get drunk with people who write stuff, and that was the entire reason I started that. So together we've written, our first book is out called The Dark Side of the Smoky Mountains. We have copies available, but it's like taking a road trip with us, and some of that is what we're going to cover here today. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself in less than 10 minutes?
Okay, do my best.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mark Muncie. I am the author of Eerie, Florida, Freaky Florida, Creepy Florida, Eerie, Appalachia, and a bunch of other stuff that you don't need to know about. I'm probably most famous for about 1.5 minutes of Ancient Aliens, and about 3 minutes of Finding Bigfoot, and the Curse of Robert the Doll documentary, so for Travel Channel a few years ago. But I'm usually a talking head. I'm a consultant on a few of the ghost shows that I'm not allowed to mention names, but they rhyme with Schmost Hunters and Schmost Brothers and Schmost Adventures. But, so it could be any of them.
Ghost faces!
And I've been doing this for a few decades, collecting stories and interviewing people. I grew up as a hillbilly, familiar with monsters and Appalachian folklore, and then I moved to Florida for 30 years, so I collected all their folklore, and now we're back up here and doing all the things with ghosts and monsters and legends. And on our podcast, we interview Bigfoot hunters, ghost hunters, UFO hunters, and just people with their stories.
Weirdos. We interview a lot of weirdos. It's awesome. No, they're amazing. They're not strange at all. We always joke that the tinfoil hat crowd is our crowd, so welcome. So today we are talking about the Smoky Mountains and some of the cryptids there. So okay, why did less people woo than laughed at me? Because we're going to need to work on that dynamic. No, just kidding. So we did an amazing tour of the Smoky Mountains, and Mark is going to really quickly explain where the Smoky Mountains are and why they're named that. Real quick,
for those that don't need a geology lesson, but we pretty much for our trip kind of circumnavigate the Smoky Mountains. They pretty much start with Lookout Mountain in Chattanooga, which, hey, is there somebody, see those Sea Rock City barn signs? That's pretty much the start of the Smoky Mountains. And then they kind of curve up towards Knoxville, and then they kind of come down through the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Imagine that, they got a national park about this. And then you go through what we like to call Baptist Vegas, aka Pigeon Forge. And then you hit Gatlinburg, which is Baptist Disney. And then you come out into Cherokee. And then you kind of go over to Asheville is probably the western side of or eastern side of it. And then you come back along through North Carolina side and back around to Chattanooga.
And down to Georgia.
Yeah, a little bit North Georgia too.
Yeah.
So, and the reason they're called the Smoky Mountains, if you haven't been there, you drive along, you'll see these misty smokes up near the top of them all the time. And it's not fog, it's not a weather phenomenon, it is the plants there. They have a natural gas that they release to protect themselves from high heats and high cold. So it's really unique, and it's only in that area. I think there's a couple places in Europe that do it too, but it really evolved in this area, and hundreds of unique species. It's an amazing place to visit. #1 most visited national park in the world, in the U.S.
And for those of you that are Lord of the Rings fans, it's basically the Misty Mountains.
Pretty much.
So, Mark, what cryptid do you want to start with? Because I think we should start over in near Chattanooga.
Starting near Chattanooga, there is one. This is kind of a borderline cryptid because he's borderline between something unusual, kind of Mothman-esque, where he could be something a little otherworldly. But we go back to the Battle of Chickamauga. We like to say we're
going in our Wayback Machine. We like to say we take the Wayback Machine. There's lots of snacks. I think everybody should have snacks in their Wayback Machine. And also, we use the word preternatural instead of paranormal because Shirley Jackson, who wrote The Haunting of Hill House, used that term to describe stuff that we just don't understand what it is yet. So we use the term preternatural. So this is a preternatural creature. So join me in the Wayback Machine. We have snacks from Buc-ee's. And so it's pretty cool. And where are we going back to, Mark?
So we go back to the Battle of Chickamauga, which is probably one of the most brutal battles of the Civil War. And it was pretty terrible. Thousands died on each side in the first day. 12,000 dead in one day on this battlefield. But what happened was it was early days of the war, so nobody really knew how to, we didn't do like treaties to go get the wounded or anything like that. So there's thousands on this field that are just wounded and dying, and nobody can go get them because they'll get shot at from the other side. But what these soldiers
hear them screaming, and like that had to be one of the most unpleasant things ever. So continue.
But there, amongst the wounded, they started seeing this shadowy form go from body to body, or wounded to wounded, and then suddenly they stopped. They stopped screaming. Something was draining them. Now, what's interesting about this is both sides reported this in journals. There's numerous journal entries from soldiers on both sides. No communication between the sides.
There was no internet back then, in case you weren't aware of that fact. I'm not sure how history was in your school.
But we're from all over.
It's starting to get a little bit hazy, so.
But so both sides report this strange, shadowy figure, but both sides say it had bright green eyes, glowing eyes as it went across the battlefield. And I still get goosebumps thinking about this thing because it's creepy. And Chickamauga is
I don't
a
know
park
what's
now.
at all creepy about a soul-draining thing that kills the injured. I mean, that seems like a walk in the park, literally.
Well, what happens is it's now a park, a national park, because of the battlefield. There's lots of historical monuments there.
But going back in history, we're going to go further in this Wayback Machine because the Cherokee tribes talk about this. So when Cherokee tribes talk about it, they talk about it not as a legend or something like that. This is part of their history, right? They have stories, and that's how they communicated their history. And they knew about this creature way before there was a civil war battle there at all.
Yeah, they talked about the shadow figure, the great shadow man, they called it. I cannot pronounce the Cherokee words. We need Kathy Littlejohn here. She's our Cherokee storyteller. If you ever get a chance to go to Cherokee, Kathy Littlejohn does storytelling first Saturday of every month. Worth your time. Just sit there. She'll sit by the fire and tell stories. It's amazing. But Anyway, so the Cherokee talked about it. Everybody's talking about it. Now it's a national park, and the park rangers there will tell you, a couple of them have said, they've seen it still. And that I guess he dresses for the time now, so he's a little less of a black shadow figure and more of a man in a black coat with the big green eyes.
Yeah, no, they'll see this person after the park is closed, and they'll try to tell him, hey, can we help you? Do you need assistance? He'll turn, look at them with the glowing green eyes, and then fade away.
So
Not just pop out of sight, fade away, which is very ominous. So if you really want to have the crap scared out of you by a creepy green guy, one, don't be injured. That seems like that's not going to work out for you at all.
yeah,
And I don't know what the qualifiers, so even if you got like a little scratch, you maybe
You got a
don't
splinter,
want to
I
go
wouldn't
like
risk it.
yeah, I wouldn't at all. But they do now, like very much like Mothman Festival and stuff, they are embracing their cryptids. We love it when people embrace the cryptids and not in a weird way. Some of you just made that weird in your mind, it's okay. So they're embracing it. So they have a green-eyed festival, and they actually have somebody dress up in a black morph suit with kind of like a sheet on their body with big green googly eyes and like this wide brim hat. So it looks like something out of a Scooby-Doo cartoon,
Yeah.
but it's
Pretty
terrifying.
yeah. Google Green Eyes Festival mascot. You will not be disappointed. But their festival is October 11th, and it's outdoor, just like Mothman Festival up in West Virginia. It's something awesome. So we love that. So
Yes.
now, not so cryptid. Right near there is Raccoon Mountain Caverns. If you want to see something very unique, Raccoon Mountain Caverns has a ghost in it. We'll talk about that on Sunday. But they also have a unique creature in their caverns. Only place in the world, the Raccoon Mountain cave spider. So my wife in the front here, she raises spiders. We're not allowed to take one home. They are endangered species. So
Yeah, it took them literally until the 80s because people would say they saw it, but then they couldn't find it. But it literally looks like a crystal. It's really amazing.
they're unique.
And so it happens to be one of those areas you can't even take service animals because they're so worried about the ecosystem within these caverns because it only exists there. So it's pretty cool. That's not a cryptid, and no, you can't take it home. I've asked to. And they
So
said no.
we brought up Cherokee, and if you're traveling anywhere in the Smoky Mountains, there are a couple rules. These also apply to most of Appalachia. One is, if you heard your name in the woods, you didn't, right? And the
You
second
hear
one,
whistling in the woods?
don't whistle in the woods,
Don't whistle in the woods.
because you might lose your liver.
Yeah, so there is some very Hannibal Lecter-esque cryptids in the Smoky Mountains, which was really interesting. Mark had learned about them, and then when he told me about them, I actually thought he was kind of making it up, because I'm like, they're all interested in liver, but apparently it's the delicacy that's there in the Smoky Mountains. So who's our first creature that is the liver eater?
Now this one is probably the most infamous character that is borderline cryptid, but I think she counts. She is known as the Stone Lady of the Cherokee. She is made of rock. And
Obsidian rock.
Obsidian rock, and she has an obsidian long finger that she is known as Spearfinger. How many people know Spearfinger? Anybody? Oh wow, okay. Cool. A couple.
I promise we didn't make this up.
Yeah. So we learned these cryptids just have stupid names.
Bench leg.
It's just a rule.
Yeah.
Bench leg. Sorry, it's a dumb name.
Nobody with cool naming capabilities is the first to encounter these creatures. It's never somebody that's like, you know what would be a badass name for that? Kind of like Mothman. Got named Mothman because the Batman TV series was out right then, and they said, well, we can't call it Batman. So some reporter was like, I know, Mothman. Yeah, because that sounds terrifying.
It's stuck. All right, so Spearfinger, Stone Lady. Now, the big thing about her is we think she might really be real. which is a twist on all these cryptids because, again, we have documentation.
Yeah, don't give away the documentation yet. Tell
Okay.
the story
That's what I'm gonna do.
of who she is before we give away how we know she is real.
Okay, well anyway, she's got the stone finger and she wanders around. She's a shapeshifter, so she can be a young lady or she can be an old grandma, and she will be like, "Come, children, come help me, and let me braid your hair, let me do all this."
She'll appear as somebody in need of assistance, and the Cherokee, because she looks like a Cherokee, will then bring her to their camp to assist, whether it's a fair maiden or a crone. Either way, it looks like she's very helpless, very harmless, and needs assistance.
Yep. And then what she does is when she gets in the family, that stone finger that she's been hiding, she uses it to either poke in your neck or in your back and suck out your liver. Don't know why, just the thing she does.
So what ended up actually happening, again, not folklore, but actual history, is the Cherokee tribes ended up meeting together, the leaders, because this was a huge problem for them, that she kept appearing in villages and then killing entire families or multiple people and then disappearing. So they were like, we have to hunt her down, right? Because that's what you do, you form a posse, right?
Well, and that didn't work, so they finally came up with this plan. They had a big council meeting, and that's why we kind of have documentation of this council meeting, where these tribes never talked to each other before. Now we're like, hey, we got to stop this. So they came up with the idea of fortifying their town and then burning all the chestnuts nearby, which is a way they used to gather chestnuts roasting by open fire, and they would fall and they would go out and gather them. Well, they knew if they burned the trees, she'd know that they were out gathering. So they all go out, they like, whoever shows up, that's going to be her. Don't let her in. And we're going to take care of this. We're going to dig a big pit. She's going to fall in. We got it.
And we'll spikes in the pit.
Everything that we can do. And so they went full prepper, got it ready, dug up the holes, and then they sat and they burned the fire. And sure enough, the little old lady shows up. And she's like, help, I saw your fire from another town. I'd like to come in. And one of the guards is like, yeah, sure. And they're like, idiot. So that's her. And sure enough, she falls in the pit. They start throwing everything they got at her. Arrows, spears, everything. She's a stone lady. Guess what's happening?
Absolutely nothing.
Right. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Ha, ha,
And now the Snow White moment occurs.
Yep. The Nineveh, which are the Cherokee higher beings, they live up near the Happy Hunting Grounds. They send down a titmouse, the Carolina titmouse, and it lands and it says nun, 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 which is Cherokee for heart. Heart. So they all start shooting her heart, but it's just bouncing off. And so now the Cherokee called the titmouse the lion bird and chopped its tongue off, so that's why it's got a tiny little tongue. But poor titmouse, he was saying the right thing, just wasn't very special.
You need further instructions, these cryptid instructions on how to kill cryptids. Look how I did that.
Yeah.
Just don't work. So instead, they do part two.
Part two, they send down another messenger. They send down the Carolina chickadee. And the Carolina chickadee lands on the hand, or spear finger, and says, hand, hand, hand. And they realize her heart is in her hand and she's hiding it. So now they start firing everything they got. And they finally get the hand severed, and she dies.
Supposedly.
But this is all documented from that council meeting, which was documented by a couple naturalists who were traveling through the area. And so this is, maybe legit history. But the cool thing about her...
No. This is a cool thing. I was like, you're going to make us sound like serial killers.
Well, she might still be around a little bit, because people hear her, see her. If you whistle, she supposedly will come to you in the night, which I don't know why you'd whistle. I don't think there's an upside to this, but...
It's a cleansing of the gene pool.
But, Sevierville, which is not too far from Dollywood.
There's a Buc-ee's there.
Yeah, there is a Buc-ee's there. They're one of the biggest in the world. But we're not sponsored by Buc-ee's, we just love it.
Not at all, but you do car wash.
But if you want to Buc-ee's, we're open. But anyway, this hospital got a case of a young man came in very sick, had a small injury in his back. When they finally scanned him, he'd lost his liver. No reason why.
Documented that this happened, like there's reports of it.
2008, if anybody wants
Yeah.
to look it up.
So again, this is why I will not camp in the Smoky Mountains. I'll camp, but I will not camp. Thank you very much.
All right.
But she has a counterpart.
Yes, she has a rival, and this is another Cherokee cryptid. This guy, he's a little interesting. He's called Stoneface, and he is literally a giant rock
With a face on it.
With a face on it, and he eats livers too. He sings songs about eating livers, and that's pretty epic. Pretty epic. Spearfinger supposedly sang a song about livers too. I gotta imagine there's like a whole cryptid liver song genre on Spotify. I'm ready for that.
Somebody make that happen immediately following this panel.
But he rolls around, and what he does is he crushes you by rolling on you and then eating your liver. That's a lot of work. Now he famously built a stone bridge. Him and Spearfinger, apparently they were rivals, but sometimes they team up. And they built a stone bridge near Whiteside Mountain in North Carolina. That's how far their range goes, from near Knoxville all the way over there. And that bridge got destroyed by the Thunderbirds because they were building too close to the happy hunting grounds. So there you go. And there is a wrecked stone bridge there. So.
Yeah, so again, the lesson is do not go to the Smoky Mountains and whistle. Where do we want to go next?
I think we should talk about one of the critters that's kind of all over the area. How many people have heard the tales of big cats in the Smoky Mountains? So there's bobcats, there's a few others around.
Panthers.
And then there's this, there was in North Carolina, there was the catamounts.
Catamounts, yeah.
Catamounts, and if you go anywhere in the Smoky Mountains, 90% of the school mascots are catamounts, panthers, black cats, big cats, all cats everywhere. But the panthers, the pumas, and all the jaguars and all that, they're supposedly all extinct in the area.
Yes, and if you ask any ranger, they will tell you that. Like, no, there's no sightings of that. So there's actually a code word that you have to ask them.
Yeah, you have to ask about this. So UFOs, right? We all know UFOs is no longer the appropriate term for government collecting. It's UAPs, right? Unidentified aerial phenomena. There is a code word for the big cat sightings in the Smoky Mountains. If you ask a ranger about that, they will direct you to a report website, and the code word is alien big cat. ABC. So
Definitely much more stealthy. Nobody would figure that out.
but if you ask anybody who lived out there or lives out there or lived anywhere in the Appalachians, they will tell you, oh, they've got a name for this. You're talking about the Wampus cat. Everybody heard Wampus cat? Okay. Now, the kind of difference with the Wampus cat versus just a generic big pet cat is that they tend to have like almost saber-tooth teeth. They have razor claws and much bigger than your average big cat.
Sometimes they have 6 legs.
Yeah,
You
6
know,
legs
it's
according to some of them. And we have a fun report from a high school that went on lockdown because they thought a lion had gotten loose. A lion was attacking the school. And there was a lot of reports about this. And it didn't help that Tiger King came out about a year before this. So I can only imagine what people were thinking. No reports of Carol Baskin there, though. But anyway, they found giant claw marks in 2 of the cars there that went through metal. And if it was a hoax, which they're saying it was, that's a lot of work. When I did hoaxes in high school, that was too much work for me.
Yeah, in the Cherokee, again, part of the history of who the Wampus cats actually are.
Yeah, well, they have a story, again, it kind of blends. There's a couple stories. There's the Wampus and the Wolf Woman. And they are very similar stories. And they are a lady who was in the tribe. Her husband kept going off on late night excursions, and she followed him thinking, wait a minute, they can't be hunting this time of night. But what she did was she followed him to one of the areas where the shaman was giving, or the medicine man, was giving them his ceremonies so that he could go hunting and be safe and all that. And she witnessed this sacred rite that she wasn't supposed to. And the wolf woman story, she was wearing a wolf pelt to hide while she was doing that. But the Wampus cat story is the shaman just got upset with her. And so he cursed her to be this feline entity that can walk through shadows and teleport through shadows and stuff.
Again, another thing that will creep up on you in the woods if you whistle or say your name. So
yeah, she'll call your, the wolf woman will call your name.
Yeah.
The wolf woman, supposedly that's her pelt, but she changes it. It's very werewolf theory and all that. So anyway.
And that's the Wampus cat.
Yeah, so
yes.
Just again, grab some Tinder vittles and have that ready for you. But, okay.
That never works. I've told you that many times.
Yeah. All right. So where are we going next? What do you think?
I think we should go to my favorite cryptid, which is on the other side of the Smoky Mountains. So, as I said at the beginning of this, my favorite cryptids are the ones that are armed. This one tops being armed, though. So, there is the legend of a cryptid that's very much a Bigfoot-esque cryptid that used to trade with the Cherokee tribes, where they gave him a medicine satchel to wear around his neck so people wouldn't shoot him thinking he was a bear. And then he would trade with the white men, miners, and they gave him like a hat, like a floppy hat to wear, again, so he could trade. And what he would trade, so there are two different stories, which is just gonna make this guy sound like a player. I adore him. This is one of them, which is he would trade moonshine, you see where I'm going with this, to miners for gems to bring his love, which is a girl named Annie who worked at an inn that has since burned down, that is near the Balsam Inn, which is super haunted. Go stay in room 305, you won't get any sleep. So he would go to the miners, and there was a trade thing with the moonshine, or there's a story he'd get them really, really drunk and then take the gems away in the moonshine containers and take them to his love, Annie. And so the thing that I love about him, though, on this was they used to call each other by going, ooh, ooh, and notify each other that they were in the lower part of this inn, so they could see each other. And this creature, which is called, because again, everything has the best names, a boojum. Boojum. So it would come, and this is where there is the legend that Hootenanny came from. Hoot, hoot, to Annie. Now, there's a Cherokee version of this story where he wanted to marry a Cherokee princess. So the chief of the tribe, basically said, okay, but you got to bring all these gems, and in exchange for that, you can marry her. Which supposedly he was able to, from getting all the miners drunk, bring all these gems, and he got to marry this Cherokee princess. Now, both of these have very strong storylines in this area, which leads me to the playa part of this, because it's entirely possible he could have been hidden, both of them. They're not going to talk to each other. Very hard to get tracked on the internet, like, is this your boyfriend? Facebook group. So those are the stories.
Yeah, and there's a trail in Waynesville, North Carolina, and on that trail there's a big rock that's like a split seam rock, and there's, again, some kind of things that look like claw marks naturally there. And if you go there, that's supposedly the edge of the Boojum's territory. Now, the big thing with the Annie story, or the Cherokee princess story, is supposedly she was blonde hair, blue eyed.
Both of them.
Both of them. So Cherokee, blonde hair, blue eyes. We've got some questionable ancestry there, but it's okay. It's allowed. But supposedly her and the Boojum got together, and that's why we have a new cryptid in the area. That is, a lot of Bigfoot hunters report these. We get a lot of sightings reports of these. They are called the white fangs. Fangs, T-H-A-N-G-S. And they are generally like a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch with gray or white hair. And we've gotten tons of reports.
We've even gotten some in the last couple of weeks of people seeing these creatures crossing the road and stuff like that. They're sighted a lot.
To Highlands, North Carolina, which is like a nice touristy town, but there's only 2 roads up to it, very small winding roads, and somebody saw one cross the road. This was like 3 weeks ago. But anyway, the thing about the white fangs is, again, they're seen all over Appalachia, lesser, but super concentrated in the Smokies, and the Bigfoot hunters seem to believe that they've adapted to the smoke of the Smokies, which is a white fog, and that's why they look that way and all that. So, because there's not a lot, there is snow there, but not all the time. The mountains aren't always covered in snow, like you would think, like a Yeti or something like that. So,
no, this isn't a Yeti. It's completely different Bigfoot.
None of them are wearing hats anymore, though. So.
No, that's true. No medicine, no fashion apparel from the Boojum.
Yeah.
But if you go to Waynesville, which is supposedly the beginning of the Smoky Mountains, it's not. But there's a sign.
It's a gateway to the Smokies. It's actually about 50 miles east.
Yeah. So, but they have a bar there called the Boojum Bar.
Boojum Brewery.
Boojum Brewery. And you can get Boojum beers and ciders and really cool t-shirts. And again, they're embracing it. So it's really, really neat. It was funny, the first time me and Mark saw it, we were looking and they have this huge mural that is just Bigfoot feet. Because I was like, oh, now I get it. Okay, it took me a minute. So the Boojum in Waynesville, which is very, very cool. And when you leave Waynesville and go to an amazing, amazing lake that was made by man called Lake Junelasca.
Yeah.
And this is in an area that was originally established by...
Well, it was originally a Cherokee, known area. Again, we chased them out because that's what we did. Terrible, terrible stuff. But that whole lake was a couple rivers, and then we man-made it as a dam to make a big fancy lake. And it was founded by a very Orthodox Christian spiritual group. It was going to be where they could have meetings and draw people and all that, and avoid the sins of Gatlinburg. But so they formed this area, and they had the Cherokee boats that would take you around the lake. They had some swans imported and all that. But there is a creature there. The Cherokee called it the Great Worm of the river. Now, Cherokee, as we discussed, they have the Thunderbirds up high, and then middle level is where we all live, and then the lower level, under the water, is the lair of the underwater panther and the great serpent. And so this was the Great Worm. And the Great Worm, they described it as thus: the head of a cat, big cat, hey, we're back to Wampus cat, a long serpentine body that was 20 to 30 feet long. But this one would talk to you. And if you talk to it on the right day, he would grant a wish. So this is a good cryptid. We like these cryptids. So
be careful how you word the wish.
Yeah. But now it's a lake, so everybody thought, oh, he's gone now. It can't be going. People see him. Although the recent descriptions are more cat head, but a salamander body. Salamander body, which is similar to the hellbenders over there. Anybody know about the hellbenders?
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
That's an actual real thing.
They're an endangered salamander in the Smoky Mountains and a little bit around Appalachia. That's why you don't stack rocks when you go through creeks and stuff. You see people stacking rocks. Stop them, slap them. Do whatever you got to do, because that's where they lay their eggs, under rocks, and if you pick them up, that's it. We're going to lose the hellbenders. And hellbenders, sad thing, they were called mud puppies for a long time, and people used to beat them up and pick them up, because if you touch them, they've got this kind of goo on the outside, like salamanders, and it burns. So that's why they're called hellbenders, right? And so, kill them, they're from the devil. But don't, they're sweet and they're wonderful. So anyway, back to the creature. So it's cat head, salamander body. Well, nobody gave it a name ever. It doesn't have a dumb name yet. So because not many people have reported, a few, it's not as super common in the area as some of
It
these.
is still being reported though.
Yeah.
People in boats and are walking along the shoreline see this creature. They think it's a giant catfish sometimes, but then it's
Literally
got
a cat
legs,
head.
and so
Yeah, and it comes up kind of on the shore banks and stuff, and it lifts up on these two little legs. And what we discussed when we were asking around about this, some Swiss tourists who were staying in Lake Alaska came up to us and said, yes, we have seen this, my terrible accent.
don't do this accent. I told you that.
Well, I have to say, because the word doesn't come out right if I don't. They call it the tasselworm, which is a Norwegian dragon. Again, very serpentine, little legs, kind of usually a dog or cat head, and they're very common over in Europe. Reported there's a big statue of one in one town whose name I cannot pronounce. I'm not even going to try because it's got little circles with lines over them and U's. I'm not even going to bother. But anyway, so the tasselworm, we started asking about that, and then a few more people talked about it. A few more people talked about it. So suddenly, that is now its name is the tasselworm of Lake Alaska. So yeah, kind of an odd one, fairly recent as far as we can tell, but it still goes back to Cherokee time. So odd that it's still seen. So anyway.
Yes, no, exactly. And grants wishes. You gotta love that idea. Don't do that. It's never a good idea. If you ever play Dungeons and Dragons, deck of many things, you know what a terrible idea trying to get a wish properly worded is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're over here in the Smokies, and there is a very interesting rock. Said no one ever. No. So there is a very fascinating rock that was discovered
A long time ago. I mean,
Yeah.
early. Well, it's been around for generations, of course. Cherokee knew about it, all that. It has some pictographs on it, very early markings, and even the Cherokee don't know what it means.
Yes, they originally thought it was the Cherokee language, and the Cherokee was like, that's not us.
It's not us.
That's not
And,
us.
and then, of course, we had our wonderful friend Al Goingback, who's he's a Seminole medicine man and a great Bram Stoker winning author. If you haven't read any of his books, look him up, OWL Goingback. But anyway, we talked to him and he said, hey, this is an ancient writing, and they said, the Native Americans didn't have any written language. And he said, yeah, a white man probably told you that. So I was like, yeah, they did. But he's like, yeah, it predates any of the things they know. But this rock is amazing, and they call it.
It's huge, by the way. It's huge. And when you go, again, this is a place you can travel. So you can go, and they built this little sort of pathway around this thing so you can see
It
it.
was unprotected for generations. Probably the oldest thing in North America made by humans. So at least now it's getting some protection. But it's called Judicula Rock, which is the Americanized version of Tuscaloosa. Again, I'm trying my best for the Cherokee words for Kathy's sake. But Tuscaloosa was a giant. They called him He of the Slanted Eyes. And he was supposed to be 10 foot tall and a big club and covered in hair. And he was the guardian of the underworld entrance, somewhere around there. And that rock is supposedly a map to his hunting grounds. And if you map it a little bit, use it like a map, it kind of points, there's a couple weird symbols on it that kind of fit where the town now of Franklin, the town of Waynesville, town of Silva, which were Cherokee hubs in the day. So it's kind of his hunting ground map. Now, Judicula, Tuscaloosa, the settlers heard this guy who would jump down and he would judge you if you were in his territory, if you were doing bad things, if you were doing all that. So they were like, oh, we've got a guy like that in our legends. So he got the name of the devil to settlers. So there's the devil's courthouse, which is where he sat in judgment, and he would throw you off this giant rock wall. If you're driving the Blue Ridge Parkway, you can see that. There's the devil's chair, which is not the Devil's Chair down in Casadega, down in Florida, for those who know that place. But this is where he sat in judgment, which is right next to Judicola Rock. And yeah, so crazy, but the more the Cherokee described him was very much Bigfoot again, but with a club. Again, we love our cryptids with weapons. So, yeah.
So you can go see this rock. It's amazing because you look at it, and there's some newspaper articles. We featured one of them in our book, Dark Side of the Smoky Mountains, where we take you on a tour of all these things. And looking at it, it's kind of dumbfounded because it's not something where somebody just went and chiseled it. Like, that doesn't make sense for what you see there. It's one of these things that's just not easily explained as to what it is.
Yeah, and it's soapstone, so it is fading quickly. So if you can get out there, it's definitely a piece of history that predates Stonehenge by about 1,000 years.
So yeah, so instead of Pigeon Forge, go see this rock. So, where do we want to go next?
I think we got to go to Murphy, which has 2 places that are worth talking about. One is the Museum of the Cherokee, and in the basement of that museum, because they kind of hide it, there is this effigy carving of 2 small figures with big round heads and big eyes. And if you look at it, you will go, or anybody who's watched me on Ancient Alien, will go, Roswell, oh my gosh, Roswell. They are big-headed. They look like grays. They really do. But they're not grays. They are the Moon-eyed people. A few people know that. So.
And what's interesting about the Moon-eyed people, and this is not just the Smoky Mountains, is like I went to Hawaii, and they have the little people there in Hawaii, and it talks about the history where they were hunted and pushed inward on the island. These smaller people. And then I've been to Iceland, and Iceland has the little people and stuff like that. So there's all these places, and we've even, one of the things in Mark's book is the Gnomes of Bok Tower. That have an Irish link that was documented by police reports. That was fun. But these smaller humanoid type people have been seen in a lot of places, but what's fascinating about these guys is, again, the Cherokee got together and went, we have a problem. We need to band together and hunt down these smaller humans from the caves.
And
you know,
they chased them into the underworld, supposedly. The reason they're called the Moon-eyed people is their eyes were so big, and they lived in darker areas, they couldn't come out under the light of a full moon. It was too bright for them. They couldn't come out in the day. So the Cherokee's like, no, we got a chance. Let's take them out. And they did, supposedly. Great victory, I'm sure.
Supposedly, it's like, fighting against the hobbits. Like,
Yeah. And but also there's a Celtic legend from the 1300s that talks about a lost prince, Prince Madoc, who sailed across the sea and apparently moved somewhere in the mountains. And supposedly he was a very tiny guy, and so maybe he's the Moon-eyed people. His descendants are the Moon-eyed people. But either way, it's a crazy story, but it is history.
Yes, and this statue is very old, and they talk about it again as history. This isn't a story they made up. They talk about this war with the Moon-eyed people.
And Fort Mountain, which is in North Georgia, again, edge of the Smokies, they have this small stone wall that goes for hundreds and hundreds of yards. That's a 2-foot wall. Who would build that back then?
Protect against
what? Yeah, exactly. So, but if you're under 2 foot tall, building a wall to hide behind, smart idea. So, but that's still there. You can go visit Fort Mountain State Park in Georgia, hopefully becoming a UNESCO heritage site soon, which would be wonderful. That way it's protected. But it's amazing to look at, again, 2 foot wall. But when they first were exploring it, I believe one of the early naturalists was asking a Cherokee about it, and he said, oh, that was built by the little people, the Moon-eyed people. Not to be confused with the Cherokee little people, which are their Fae. They have several clans of small little people that they have the Wolf Clan, they have the Red Clan, they have the Green Clan, very much the Fae of Europe.
Which just makes you wonder if there was a race of things out there that were smaller and, didn't have spaceships. So that could be a thing. Although having a spaceship would make them even more badass, to be honest with you. They're like, we have this 2-foot wall, we also have a spaceship.
And then if you want to see the movie about the Moonite people living in caves, watch The Descent, which was apparently based on that. So, interesting stuff.
Yes.
But while you're here in Murphy...
No, absolutely don't do this.
All right, there's a river walk, and it is beautiful. You walk along a little river there, and they have, jogging path and dog walking path and all that. And then there's this weird sign. So you're walking along, looking over this little bit of stream, and it says, "The Leech Place." What?
Yeah, that just, if you've seen Stand By Me, that can end badly too, or that one with Channing Tatum where they're on his butt. It's probably not his butt, but it was kind of cool. But there's a little difference with this particular leech.
Yep. So again, we've got Cherokee stories, we've got settler stories, we've got a few other stories. What happened, if you go there's this little ridge of the water. You can see it. It's like a split seam in the water. It's beautiful when you go there. And the story goes that there was a creature that lives there, and there's a hole that goes underneath and comes out in another town, the town of Trotter, which is about a mile or so, a couple miles away. And there's another spot over there that does the same thing. So it's an underground river of some sort, but something lives in there, and it's bright red and plump and juicy looking. And so hunters would come, especially Cherokee hunters, would come towards it, and then it would sink down into the water, and then they'd get close, because this was also the only natural ford across the water. Now there's bridges. But so they would try to get across that, and then this thing would sink down, they'd go look in the hole, and then it would spew up boiling hot water and knock them into the hole so it could feast. And a couple supposedly died there, and that's why they called it the Leech Place.
So they put a sign there saying, "Don't go here."
Yep.
And so, of course, when naturalists were exploring, their very first thought was, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send some people there. That seems like a good idea. Let me do that. So, friends, I'm doing a book. Can you go there for me and cross the river?
River there, and apparently a wagon train came across that river, and one of the wagons got washed away by a strange water spout geyser, and up like Yellowstone. And then they saw a red shape in the water that they thought was one of the guys or one of the calves or something, and they couldn't document it. So, real interesting story. I love reading newspapers from the 1800s because they really, talk about impeccable journalism. This is an odd duck. But if you do go there,
there's still a sign.
There's still a sign. There's it's the Leech Place. And the cool thing about it is there is a red copper vein through there. And so right under the water. So maybe they were seeing that and something else was getting them. But either way, don't get too close to the water. Stay on the boardwalk.
The moral of the story is glamping in the Smoky Mountains. You know what I'd like to do? Go stand and do fly fishing right there. Yeah, no, a giant leech sounds terrifying because it's not like a 2-foot leech. Like this thing apparently was Swallow Man whole giant leech and would travel. So that sounds fantastic.
All right, we've got to jump back to Cherokee though because we have a special guest in the audience today. The Raven Mocker is here, and we weren't going to talk about this, but now I have to. So.
Now you have to. One thing, I gotta just do a plug because I'm a huge fan, but in our book we also mention it. The village that was represented in the Hunger Games is actually really close to the end of our trail. So if you want to go to District 12 and find out if the odds will ever be in your favor, the location of that village is down there and you can go see it. It's pretty...
Where they filmed it.
Well, epic in the desolate, sort of depression-looking kind of like thing.
History of Appalachia there. So,
but as a fan of dressing up, I think everyone should go in costume.
So the Raven Mocker, the Cherokee have this wonderful theater that some of you may know of called, they do a performance there every year called Unto These Hills, which is the history of the Cherokee and the Trail of Tears and all the terribleness, but also their strengths too. But they do a haunted house there every October, and they theme it on different legends of the Cherokee. And last year was the legend of the Raven Mocker. Now, I'm hoping they do it again this year, but the Raven Mocker is supposedly when you're sick or dying, you will hear these ravens calling all around you, and they are not real ravens. They are the Raven Mockers. They're usually shapeshifters, half human, all that, and they come up to you and they will caw, and again, they're kind of like old green eyes.
King James.
They're draining the life force of the sick person. And it's a scary thing. There's a great author called Manly Wade Wellman. You know you're great when your first name is Manly. He was from Portugal and came to the Appalachians, and he started collecting folklore stories. And he created a character called Silver John, who was basically a bard.
He was a bard.
Yeah, he walks around with a silver banjo or silver guitar and fights monsters. And in one of the books, he fights the Raven Mocker by playing a pretty song and then beating it over the head with his guitar. So it's a lot of fun.
And there's nothing like when you're sick and not feeling well to think of all of these things that are just gonna come get you. Like you're laying there and you're like, I need more emergency, because then you hear a bird and you're like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, did you hear that? And then you go, no, I didn't.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't hear anything. So, all right, we're getting near the end here.
We are.
So, I think, what do you want to do?
Me? I want to stand up here as long as possible. This is a badass stage. But does anybody have any questions for us?
Any stories? I see one right up front there.
Yeah.
Supposedly, the Appalachian Mountains and the Scottish Highlands are from the original, like the same mountain.
Yep, they are the same.
Comparison.
Yeah, the Scottish Highlands, Irish mountains, all that is the same mountain range as the Appalachians. We just did that big Brexit about 1 million years ago, and so they separated, and that's why when the settlers all come from Ireland and Scotland, they're like, wow, it's home. And that's why there's such a strong Scottish and Irish thing all throughout the Appalachians. That's why some of the folklore came with, and that's why,
They brought the little people.
Yeah.
And I will say this, there's a really creepy mannequin-filled Scottish museum in Franklin, North Carolina.
Yeah.
So if you want it in the basement of a building, so if you want to have the crap scared out of you, you can go there. I love
the Tartan Museum.
Yeah.
The Tartan
Okay,
Museum.
you had a question.
Yeah. That's all right.
That's okay,
We're
we'll
terrible
butcher it too.
pronunciations
Go.
too. Oh yeah, that's from the top of a mountain, usually Black Mountain it's associated with, or Roan Mountain. It tends to travel a lot, and it's a giant wasp or yellow jacket, and there's a reason the mountain is bald there, because it comes down and destroys it. There's also the graveyard fields is up there in that same area, and that's also one of its supposedly stomping grounds.
What is it?
It's called, it's a giant yellow jacket. It's got a couple names, Yandro, what was the one you said? Ugalo? Yeah, Ugalo or Ugaloo. I've heard a few different names. Again, we all butcher the Cherokee words, and it's sad. But even the Cherokee are like, I don't remember that one. But it supposedly fought the Thunderbirds for sky dominance, and the Thunderbirds smacked it down, and that's why it died, and that's why nothing else can grow on those mountaintops.
So just to add to my entire glamping theory, they're giant bugs.
Yeah.
So that just keeps going better and
Yeah.
better. Okay.
Any more out there?
Yeah, there's one back there.
Way in the back. So back when I did Eerie, Florida.
Gotta repeat what he said.
Yeah, he was talking about small hominids, or very small, not like, too small for human and stuff like that. But there's in Eerie, Florida, there was a wonderful story, we kind of hit on it a little earlier, that this girl lived outside an orange field, right in the shadow.
It was an orange grove.
Yeah, sorry, orange grove, right outside of Buck Tower. And in
It's
the 40s,
presently owned by a company that rhymes with Schmapakana.
yeah, we're not allowed to say that.
We're not.
But anyway, if you go, she went out there and there was something was stealing their oranges, and they caught in a trap, a rat trap, a guy who was about this big. And he was screaming at him, he was covered in hair, so it was not a little baby or anything like that. And they didn't know what to do with him, so they called the police. And long story short, the police arrest him in a orange crate, because handcuffs aren't going to work on this guy. And then while he's there at the police station, hundreds of them show up and start throwing oranges and rocks at this house that the lady lived in. And so the police came and let him loose because they didn't want to deal with it.
Well, the police also couldn't figure out what language he spoke. They thought he spoke Portuguese.
Portuguese,
That was their best guess, Florida police officer, best guess. And so they were trying to get a translator, because you can't arrest somebody if you can't tell them they're under arrest, right? So they end up going, okay, now we're just going to bring him back and let him go. What's interesting is the girl who was the receptionist there after Mark printed this was like, I was there that day. I was there when he was brought in. It was, yeah, it was a whole weird
Still trying
thing.
to find the records of that, but at least we got a witness.
But there is, what they ended up doing is an Irish gentleman said, oh, you need a stone that's blessed by the priest from Ireland, and then they'll leave you alone. So literally the owners got this stone brought over, and again, this isn't Amazon Prime.
Yep.
It's not 2-day arrival. So they get this giant stone blessed and shipped over from Ireland and put it down, and all of these people disappeared. All the little people disappeared. And what's very fascinating is Schmapakana, we didn't mention there, had put all of their beehives around this stone, and it's still there in the middle of this orange grove. So,
well, I'm afraid we're out of time, gang.
oh, we need to talk about the charity.
Talk about the charity for
Yes.
Extract, and I'm going to get a quick. We're going to do a quick video here for. Hi, gang. We are here at Dragon Con, and a few people showed up at 1 o'clock to listen to us talk about cryptids.
There's at least 5 of them.
Yep, and we wanted to let you know, thank you so much for having us out here, and I guess that's where we'll leave it. But buy our books, listen to our podcast. Look, these people are all doing it. Why can't you?
Okay. So the charity, and we're going to use this bag for donations because somebody forgot about it. Not going to mention names, but you know who you are. Okay, is NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So anything you guys donate, Dragon Con will match. And I think in the last few years they've done over $100,000 for these organizations. So it's amazing. So if you want to donate, throw some money in here. They'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, if you come up and show us you are a listener of our podcast, I don't care what app it's on because we're on everything, including YouTube, you will get a very cool vinyl sticker that can even go on your car if you so decided. I put it on my cup, I run it through the dishwasher, it lasts. And then we also have some copies of our book. If you want to take a road trip with us, the entire book is written as if me and him are in the car with you.
For better or worse.
I'm the better. And so we'll take you through all these places and also all the haunted places. You have been amazing. Thank you so much for
coming out early.
Yeah,